Welcome back, guys. Now we're going to get into the GWS Giants, and we're going to start off in defence. They haven't had their practice match yet. I think currently, as we're recording, they're in the middle of an intra-club. So we'll have to see how things pan out after that. But I do know that it's an orange team versus a grey team, and very, very much, I forget which colour it is, but one of those teams is stacked, basically playing a VFL reserve side. So I think we can take that with a grain of salt. Really need to wait for the next official practice match. But look, down back, we'll start off with Isaac Cumming, 521,200 with an average of 94.7 last year. Certainly a player on the rise. Looks to have a pretty friendly role this year. A pod, not a very highly owned player at this stage. Dan, what are your thoughts on Isaac Cumming? And is he worth having a look at as a pod this year? We're paying a little bit more than we have for Dacos or a Young. What are your thoughts on this man, mate?
I'm kind of not big on him. Let me explain. I think if you know for sure that Himmelberg is playing forward the whole year, he's a big shot to be a primo defender. Like he could jump up to that sort of 103, 104 kind of average. He takes a lot of the kick-ins. He's great overhead. He's young enough to be still developing. Whitfield's going to be down there maybe taking some points off him. But, I just think he's someone that did really well when Himmelberg was forward at the beginning of the season and then tailed off quite badly when Himmelberg went down there, started taking his kick-ins and just being that general that was taking all the intercept marks and stuff. So I think it's someone whose role is dependent on where someone else plays. So that's my knock on him. I like him as a player. I think he's great, but his range is probably that sort of low 90s. If Himmelberg goes back there, up to that sort of 102, 103, maybe upside if Himmelberg plays the whole year forward.
Spills, thoughts on Isaac Cumming?
Well, the major issue I've got with Cumming is, he's basically a walking roller coaster. He'll give you 120, 130 one week, and then you'll go 60 or 70 the next. So I just can't be there for that inconsistency. And it's that same sort of price, boys. Like you're picking Young and Dacos before you pick this bloke. You're massive pods. I don't mind that for a shout. Maybe you could benefit with Himmelberg playing forward predominantly, which looks like that's going to be the case. We'll obviously discuss that later on in the pod. But, got no interest in Cumming just for that one reason, and that's a pretty good reason, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you did just mention Himmelberg there. We might as well talk about him now because he does have that DPP status, obviously a defensive forward. It was a tale of two halves of the year for him last year, wasn't it, really? Obviously, as a forward, really mediocre average. But as soon as he moved into that defensive role, absolutely set the world on fire. I don't know if you boys jumped on him at the time. I didn't. I wasn't in a position where I really needed someone up forward. I was pretty good there at that stage. But, yeah, Spew and I did miss out because for those people that did jump on, they were rewarded with a terrific average. It was much closer to the 115 mark. So the issue for me, obviously, is the fact that all the talk coming out of the Giants is that he will be starting forward. There may be times where he will swing back. As a defender, he's probably my first picked player this year in the whole game after what he did last year. I think there's heaps of value as a defender. But as a forward, I'm just not interested. Dan, how about yourself, mate? Any interest in Himmelberg or just too risky because he doesn't really have a defined role?
You just can't go there, can you? I mean, like I said, you're worried about what the coach is going to do. I mean, I don't know. And you're relying on like a first-year player in Cadman standing up in the forward line, who's not probably going to play 22. These big boys, they take longer to develop. I just can't see him coming out and dominating and the coach being able to go, oh, you're right, Himmelberg, just move to halfback again and, take on the Stewart role. Like, as much as I'd love to pick him, I just think you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Him as a player, but, can't do it.
I'm with Jared Waitley. Jared Healy on this one. Obviously, he reckons that he's 100% a better defender than he is forward. I've listened to a lot of Sports Day. They had some GWS coach come on. I don't think it was the main man in Kingsley, but I'm pretty sure it was maybe a midfield or a forward coach. I can't remember who it was, but he did say that he was going to play, or Himmelberg was going to play predominantly forward and maybe the occasional stint down back, which is just, it makes absolutely no sense. Like in terms of like AFL knowledge, we're not too high up there. You think a coach would have a better sort of perspective on the game than we do. Like, why would they not play Himmelberg down back? I mean, did they see that game against North Melbourne? Can they see what he's capable of? I think they're a much better team with him down there. And they got Cadman as well. Why would they play him forward? They still want to persist with him forward. I think the role's dead. So if they keep Himmelberg down forward, I think GWS are almost going to be a top bottom four sort of finish, just the way that things are going. They need that stability, but lads, it doesn't look like they're going to do that. So, just on that, if he's playing forward, there's no bloody chance I pick this bloke. But in draft, maybe if they throw him down back, maybe I'll log on at 4 a.m. when you can jump on and maybe get this bloke in. But yeah, look, I'm not convinced, boys.
Yeah, no.
I'm the same. Not as a forward. How about this bloke? Could he take up the role? Nick Haynes. We saw him as an All-Australian quality defender a few years back, but things just haven't clicked for him in the last couple. So 318,700, a lowly average of only 57.9 last year. Is he one of these mid-price options that we could jump on with a bit of upside if he goes close to getting back to that form, or is it too late now? The best is past him. Do we just skip him?
Yeah. Oh, look, we have to see where he's playing. If he does get that sort of Himmelberg interceptor role in defence, which I personally think they'll try and play Cummings more as that player and free him up. The problem that I have with Nick Haynes is he tends to kind of get lost on a wing sometimes. He tends to be quite flexible in what he can do and where he can play. And those sort of players tend to get moved into weird positions where they can have some shockers, and he sort of showed that last year. He wasn't properly fit. He's over 30 now. I think looking to the future, he's someone that may sort of get dropped for a youngster or maybe a little bit in and out of the team. I'm just not 100% sold he's like absolute best 22 if they're looking to the future. Very solid player in the right role. Definitely a draft smoky for one of your last defensive spots. I think he can do 80, 85. He'd need to do 85 to pick him as a 300K defender in Classic. And I'm just not sure he's got that. He could. They've got a pretty easy draw early. There's a possibility there. I just think, I'd rather pay. I mean, he's actually 318K as well. So, he does need to go. He almost needs to go at 90 to really work. He's only done just over that as his best year ever. So, pretty risky. I'd rather pick someone at 200K in that spot, or say a Bose that's at least what's Bose like almost 50K cheaper, and he's looking like he could be running through the midfield with a more solid role in a better team. So, no for me on Nick Haynes. Keep an eye on his role in the preseason games, but I don't think it's no one's going to pick him, so you're on your own as well. If it fails, you got no one to cry to. Someone if it fails, most of this comp's got him, so you're all right. But
regardless of the role,
you're going out on a limb, so it'd be pretty risky.
Yeah, regardless of the role or the price, there's only so many defenders we can pick in our teams. And I mean, I think for that price, I'm going Yo and Bose every day of the week, if not Caulfield. So I just don't think he's even barely in the discussion. But what do you reckon, DR? I'm just not going anywhere near him. I've never even considered him once.
No, absolutely not, mate. Absolutely not. There's been a couple of people that have left a comment on an odd video here and there. Could Haynes be the man to fill that Himmelberg role? Oh, possibly. His best days are past him. Dan summed it up really well there.
Yeah.
Age needs to get back to close to a career best year to make it a successful pick. So, no, I'm nowhere near the Haynes pick. Dan, anyone else on your watch list in the defensive line, or do you think we've covered most of the relevant players?
Look, no one that's that relevant. Someone that could pop up is Jack Buckley, who was best 22 a couple of years ago. did a knee, missed all of last year. He's 205k. But yeah, look, if he gets back in and gets a half decent role, perhaps he can make some money. But I think there's enough rookie defenders for us just to put a line through someone like that at the moment. I think we've got enough rookies down there. If he was a forward playing a defender role at that price, maybe could come into contention because we're a bit more squeezed for sort of cheapies in the forward line. But no, I'll put a line through him at this stage. I'm not sure even if he'll start on the side. They'll probably want to ease him back in through the VFL.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, agreed. Well, let's head into the midfield, and the hot word this season when it comes to the GWS midfield is opportunity. We know that the two big boys have gone in, obviously, Taranto and Hopper down at Tigerland now, which means there's a gaping gap to fill, and there's a few players that are looking to step up this year. Before we get into one of the blokes that I'm most excited about, we will start with the most expensive midfielder you can select from the Giants this year in Josh Kelly. 582,300, average 105.8 last year, has certainly been a premium of the past. He's never been a player that I've looked to start with in my side, mainly due to durability concerns, but a lot more opportunity for him this year. There were times the last couple of years where he has spent a lot of time up forward, but as we know, Leon Cameron is not there anymore. Kingsley's come in to take the reins, so I see him as playing majority midfield this year. What do you think about Jelly, Dan? The risk's too high, or that opportunity, does that tempt you into maybe looking to start him in his side this year, mate?
He's the gazelle. Like, he's amazing to watch. But as a SuperCoach pick, I just think, I mean, you look at durability for one. If he was maybe 80k cheaper and you could get him like as a bit of a take a gamble on him in the low 500s, maybe. But I think when you're paying that sort of money, and also his role, like I still think out of all of that midfield, we'll mention these guys later, Tom Green, Cogs and stuff. I think out of all of those guys, he's the one that will swap out to a wing when Finn Callaghan comes in, or, he's not going to be in the absolute higher end of CBAs. He plays well on the outside. He can play at half forward. He's always got some little knock on his ankle or a little injury that he's dealing with. So, yeah, look, as much as I love watching the guy and I think he's an absolute jet, for SuperCoach, no. Yeah,
Spills, you've owned Kelly. Was it the last couple of years? We jumped on, I know, together, not last year, but the year before. That didn't work out too well. Any interest this year, mate? Or have you just been burnt and he's on your never again list?
Oh, he wasn't too bad. Like when I had him, he didn't go down at all, but he just wasn't really. I just got him in at a form slump. I mean, he was M8 quite comfortably in my side, so just didn't really have the upside. Clearly, I captained him the day he got tagged against North Melbourne. He scored 45 points in the first quarter, and then they put Turner on him and ruined the rest of my day. It was a gloomy Sunday afternoon in the middle of winter for myself. So yeah, I probably won't pick. Yeah, I won't pick Jolly probably again for a long time unless he's my last sort of luxury trade and he's just scored 150 and he's 550k and he's got a really easy run. I don't know, but yeah, there's nothing to really suggest that I would start with him. I think it's idiotic. He's way too injury prone. He's way too versatile. They can play him in the guts, on the nut. They can play him on the wing. They can play him half forward. Yeah, as a starting pick, yeah, I hate it, honestly. I just don't think you can pick him. But maybe later on the season if he drops a little bit. But yeah, not for me, lads. There are other blokes.
So he's not really sort of high on the contested possession count. So if you're going to look at a premium midfield, there's not too many of these kind of mainly outside guys that are going to put up the huge numbers consistently. So, I mean, you look at right now, M1 and M2, with Oliver and Laird, and they're contested beasts. Even Bont, Brayshaw's, Parishes, like all the guys that are really in that top echelon get a lot of contested pill. And Kelly just doesn't quite get that level of contested pill and tackles and stuff. He'll rack up good numbers and he looks really good, but as far as really, it sort of limits his ceiling a little bit, and it means he needs quite a bit of pill even to sort of crack that 110, 120 mark. So, that's another sort of cross against his name for me.
Yeah, and as an opposition team, I think, well, who are going to look to tag? It's probably that man that is going to be really damaging on the outside as well. I don't think you can tag the next man that we're going to talk about. You can try, but he is known as the Green Bull for a reason, and that is Tom Green. I think he is currently locked in all of our sides at the moment. 534,600. Didn't quite get to the 100 average last year. It was 97.1, but did have a huge start to the year. I know lots of people actually jumped on as he was more of that mid-price type option, but towards the middle to later stages of the year, did have a bit of a drop-off. I think a lot of that was due to the fact that he needed to work on his tank a little bit more. Obviously, playing in the position that he does, gets knocked around a lot. He obviously would have been pretty sore, always puts his body on the line. But I think this year, this man has massive upside. We talked about some of the other premium midfielders like Callum Mills. We don't see a lot of upside there, but for me, this man basically ticks all of the boxes. We just mentioned as well that outside style of game isn't necessarily great for SuperCoach, probably better for fantasy. This bloke has an inside game that I think rivals the best in the competition. I think it's his year to break out. We've already mentioned the opportunity. Everything just seems to be going really rosy for this man. Got stronger in the preseason, worked on his running. So I don't see a heap of downside, and I don't actually see a world where Tom Green goes backwards in any way, shape, or form this year. So, Dan, Tom Green, what do you think about him, mate? Is he an absolute lock, and should he be in close to 100% of sides going into the season?
Yes, well, as the Skodfather would say, throw away the keys. Right? Come down. Yeah, lock him in. I just think he's literally 110K cheaper than Mills, and you could put the VC on him as well. Like, there's not too many players in that 500 range that you'd be comfortable throwing a VC on if he had an early game, because his first game last year, I think he was 164 or something
Massive,
like that.
Yeah.
He's got that ceiling. He's obviously sort of now locked in with those guys leaving. One thing about these guys leaving, and I feel a little bit the same about Hawthorn as well, is that we kind of overstate how much mid-time is available now. Like, literally, Hopper missed most of the second half of the year, so he wasn't even in there. So you can't say, they're taking Hopper's mid-time. And Taranto only had 54% of CBAs as well. So if you're looking at those guys leaving, the rest, the team wasn't that different anyway, So I think we can say, I just don't want to get too excited about, he's going to be the main guy in there. He's their big bull with those two guys leaving. So I expect him to have upside when it comes to the CBAs. But, I just want to tamper those expectations a little bit. Some people are going crazy about midfield opportunities and stuff. And like even at Hawthorn, Titch and Jada were both only on like less than 50% CBA loads themselves. So we're talking about, there's still quite a bit of mid-time, but it's not like you're losing two midfielders that were in there 75, 80%. You're losing a couple of guys that were part-timers, Anyway.
Yeah.
Good point. Spills, thoughts on Tom Green, mate?
Yeah, I'm locking him in, I think, at this rate to start. His fixture's a joke. Got Adelaide, West Coast. Carlton's a pretty tough one. Still should score pretty well. Essendon. Hawthorn. Plays Hawthorn twice as well. So I think there's just heaps of upside here. There's a lot of value. So, I like the Green Machine, and I think I'm going to lock him in at this stage. One to sort of monitor. It's that sort of speculation. Do you pick Green over Mitchell? Which one would you go for that price? Can you go both of them? I don't think you can, just with my structure anyway. But I really like this pick, and he starts the season pretty hot from previous years. It's just a matter of, does he have the tank to push through the whole year? But clearly, he has the last buy, doesn't he? So we can flip him at the end if we need to.
That's a good point. And the
So-
same as Titch as well.
And the 36 trades that we've got in the bank, I feel like that's so generous, far out. I think we should only have 20, but that's another story. It gives us the luxury to sort of take a gamble on him.
If you want to put 16 trades to me, you can have 20, and I'll have your extras.
There we go.
I'm quite happy with the boost and everything.
Yesterday, I think one thing's clear. If you're on the fence and you only look to select one out of Tom Green or Tom Mitchell, the decision, I think, is really, really easy now. I didn't like the look at Titch. We won't talk about Titch. It's the GWS podcast. But if you were in the same position as me, if you're really not sure, it is absolutely Tom Green out of the two at the moment. I just see so much more upside in him. And, Titch, pretty underwhelming. But, look, one bloke who I think had a really red-hot start to today's Intra Club. And the only reason why I know this is just before we started recording, I think they were about one quarter in, there was a quick interview. I think it was about a 15-second clip with Cogs. And he was asked, who's going well? And the first name he mentioned, and the bloke that he gave 3 votes for the first quarter, was Finn Callaghan. So certainly on a few people's radars at the moment as that cheaper mid-price type option. 244,000 after averaging 55.4 last year. We know a really early draft pick. I think he was 3rd selected in his draft. A really talented type player, inside, outside type game. It looks like he may be one of the beneficiaries of those couple of other blokes leaving. We know that there may not be a super large amount of time, but I think if he can get possibly 30 to 35% CBAs, that he may be a pretty relevant option for us this year. So, Dan, we'll start with you, mate. Any thoughts on Finn Callaghan at 244K, mate?
Yeah, structure-wise, he's been in and out of my side in that M6 spot, I suppose you'd call it. If you're running sort of 2 mid-prices like Hopper up and you drop to get those 4 forwards in, as we were talking about. So you're only really running, say, 4 big mids. I do like him. He's 192 centimeters. They reckon he's like a little mini Bont or a Fife or something. Like he's a real smooth mover. I saw a little clip of him and he just passes the eye test straight away. Like he just looks like a footballer. They reckon he's got to work on his contested side of his game a bit. He's for his size and everything. He's not really what you'd call a bull. He's more yet. He's more a bit sort of outside. So that's why I think he'll probably rotate with, say, a Kelly or something when he's going in there, rather than, say, a Tom Green or something like that. He's not really gonna, until he develops a bit. I think he'll play more of that sort of the guy that uses the ball on the outside for them. If he does get the load, though, I think he could work. It is a funny price, though, that 244. He's priced sort of, 60, 80K above a rookie that you could have there if there was someone, so it's like he needs to go 80, 85 to really work. Not too many guys. I mean, you look at what did Nick Dacos do last year? He's like a special player. He still only went like 91, 92 in his first full year. So pushing sort of an 80, 85 from a player in we think might be a pretty average side. Might be a bit of a push, but if there's no one else there and I like him, he's definitely on my radar.
Yeah.
You could potentially, even if you've got someone like a Sheed in that position at the moment, you could actually save a bit of coin on someone like a Sheed and maybe invest elsewhere. So, for example, maybe you've got Sheed and a Hayden Young in your side. Maybe you're not really into a Young after what you saw on the weekend. You could look to downgrade a Sheed to someone like a Callaghan and then maybe upgrade a Young to one of these high-price blokes in the back line. Just there's a few options, and he is at that awkward type price, but cheaper than some of the other mid-price options that we've got as well. Spills, anything you like about Finn Callaghan or anything you can add to the discussion, mate?
Well, that's the thing. I'm probably not the best person to ask because I haven't really been the sort of Finn Callaghan enthusiast. I haven't monitored him. I haven't watched him, and nor have I actually considered him. So Look, I don't know. It's just such a weird price, and I'd rather sort of just pay up for a few guns, and then like you got Phillips and Ashcroft, and who else have we got in there as well? But I'm
Hopper,
having a blank
obviously.
name,
Yeah,
boys.
is that other mid-price option.
There's another one in there, but yeah, look, I think I don't want to put him in my team when I sort of elected to go with the structure I've got. Like I don't really like. Oh, that's Hopper, obviously. Yeah, I've got him in there instead. So look, if Hopper somehow went down, we wouldn't wish that on him at all. Maybe that's when Callaghan would enter the discussion. But I just don't think you can with the structure that we've got. Like I think all three of us are picking 4 premium midfielders. Would that be correct? And then the mid pricer and the rookie setup, is that correct? You're going 5, Dan?
I prefer the 5.
Yep.
I have just recently, I had 5, but I had Titch at M5, and
exactly.
I just recently dropped Titch for Cogs because I think he's much more likely to be top of his line. I don't love the 4 forwards, like primo forwards, but I think we might be sort of forced to go there. It just makes sense. They're all likely to be top of their line. They're all a pretty good price. They've all got some upside. So I just feel more secure with Cogs over Titch. It's a few extra K, but it's not too hard to find. If you sort of can... If you can find it, I think it's worth doing anyway. So now I am down to those 4 midfielders, but I was running 5 for quite a while.
Yeah, that sort of adds on to my point with Callaghan. Like, can you fit him in there? Like, if Hopper's in the mix and the structure that we've got, can you actually fit both Hopper and Callaghan in there and still have Ashcroft and Phillips? I think it's probably like a little bit ambitious, but look, I don't mind him as a pod. Really good shout. I think he's gonna have a really nice season. Someone that we could like monitor in draft or further down the track, but just haven't really had him in my team at all or considered him.
Yeah, it's really hard to get a read on these guys, even being.
It is, yeah.
It's like GWS. There's not like scouts at training. There's not like if he was playing for a Melbourne club, I think we'd get a much better read on where he's at. But you just don't. There was one journo that came up here and spent a week. He was on one of the fantasy podcasts. I can't remember who it was, but might have been Beveridge. I think he spent a week up at GWS. And he was raving about Tom Green, and he had some great things to say about Finn Callaghan as well. So the reports are Cogs being told that he's a midfielder this year. The new coach has come in and said, I want to give everyone their spots, and that's where you're expected to play, and I want you to learn that role. And because past coaches have just thrown these players around everywhere, So I think it's going to be a bit of a settled GWS side. You'll be hopefully when these guys go to their spots, you'll know that's where they're going to play. Whitfield's been told he's playing across halfback, so he's another one that you could mention. He's 473, 800, I think you said, DR. Very hard to pick with his injury history, but he had a liver problem last year or something, and apparently it takes 18 months.
Yeah, super bizarre injuries.
He has weird injuries all the time.
He had some really weird injuries.
Yeah.
He had, time out with the booger sugar. Like he's got himself in a few years, but I guess that's the Sydney lifestyle. But he's not one. I mean, he's really hard to pick. He will probably get DPP and move back, and if he has a bit of a good run, people might look to jump on him as a upgrade later in the year. But not one you can really pick to start with.
Yep.
Excellent. The only thing I'll just quickly to get back to Finn Callaghan, I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're running 5 of the big boys in your midfield, he's almost irrelevant because you're not going to select him over a Hopper, an Ashcroft, or a Phillips. So I think he really only comes into play if you're one of the rare coaches running only the 3 or 4, which is obviously a little bit more common. So if you're running 3 to 4 premium midfielders, I certainly think he's a pretty relevant option. But if you're running the 5, like lots of people are, then
unless Hopper gets injured,
it comes into play. Yeah. Unless one of these blokes for some reason,
I would consider him. I think.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, like, if you're running 4 of the forwards Unless you've got a really cheap ruck too, and say you're running 5 midfielders, 4 forwards, you're basically left with 1 primo defender, and that's, I've looked into it and I thought, yeah, you can maybe save some money in defence, but it just looks wrong only having Yo at D2, I just can't, I don't know. It's just too many defenders to find. It just looks a bit wrong to me to have that sort of a structure.
I've changed up structurally as well, mate. I agree. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the midfielders. The rucks, I don't even know if we need to discuss too much here, but we do have Braden Preuss, 506,000, 91.9 as an average last year. But let's be honest, there is no way in the world. I don't think that we're going to start with a Braden Preuss. Is there anything that you want to add, guys, to the rucks before we move on to the forward line?
We got Madden.
Last year, last year I labelled Preuss the pipe dream because he's just, there's so many things that can go wrong. And at full price, he's risky at 300K. At 500K, just forget about it. Don't go there. He'll be in the tribunal. He'll knock someone out. Something bad will happen. Don't go there.
He's got some peanut blood in him, I think. A bit of peanut blood, I think.
Probably good mates, I reckon.
Get him a bit rolled up.
They get along.
They go numbing together.
Mummy have a little competition to see who can lay the biggest hit in the AFL. And Mummy's got one after that. Who did you get? Mitch Duncan that day? Remember when Mumford was it Mitch Duncan?
Was that just like the tack?
It was Mitch Duncan.
And he just completely, look it up on YouTube. It's one of the biggest.
I felt that from here, watching it.
Yeah, and I think Priest is just itching to match him, at some stage in his career. He looks like he's going out there and wants to hurt people.
Yeah.
I think he killed English. Didn't he smash English last year?
I know he had a few good games. He got a few nice hundreds for him. Look, he did his job for me. I never had him on the field too often, but on the bench, he made me some money, so all good. But this year, just not going to be relevant. The only other bloke to quickly touch on is Nick Madden. Now, very, very highly owned player as a loophole. So simply as a loophole, few late games. He works out well with a lot of the premium. So I've done some captain combination videos. If you want to check those out, you can see who Madden works well with. But I think he's going to be
Radaglia is a good one. That'll be really handy. I've got Radaglia at F6, so Madden will come in handy quite a fair bit for that. We'll be able to flip him around. That's
we'll definitely talk a lot about him when we do our Rucks video, mate. He's become extremely relevant, and he's actually been in a couple of my team updates this year. So, big fan of the pick. But look, let's get into the forward line. I do have Toby Green's name written down here, 421,000, average of 76.5 last year. Now, captain of the club. We know what the issue is with this pick, NDHP, and obviously that forward role. Dan was mentioning off there that, look, if for some reason there's this huge injury crisis in the GWS midfield and they need someone like a Toby Green to run through there for just say 5-6 weeks, you'd almost jump on just for a month and a half, get a few nice 110s to 120s, and then jump off again. But I think unless we have something like that occur, then he's not going to be too relevant. Dan, any quick thoughts on Toby? Or we've already talked about these 4 blokes.
Just very quickly, if it's the last 6 weeks of the year and he's 400K and you can loop him at like F7 as an extra primo thing, maybe you look at him, but no, basically. I just can't just no.
No spills?
No way.
No. Next on the list here, needed to get Toby Green out the way, mate. But look, Cogs, I think, has entered all of our sides. I must admit that when the team picker first came out, I sort of skipped past him pretty quickly, just looking at the price. But when you think deeply about this pick, about the fact that Leon Cameron is not the coach of GWS anymore, the fact that he will be playing major minutes in the midfield, we saw what he did last year. He was just a killer for me last year. I obviously traded him out at the wrong time, spiked right up, ended up trading him back in, which was a pretty good move, to be honest. Terrible move to trade him out, at the first stage, but got him back in, really happy. I just think that due to GWS's early fixture, the fact that CBA rate will increase, I don't think he's going to spend a heap of time up forward. He's going to be one of the main men there. I think you're saving 50K on these premium defenders, your Stewarts, your Doherty types.
Yeah.
For me, he just makes sense. So, Dan, I think he's in your side. Tell us why you've selected.
Yeah,
Stevie
I was
Kendall.
kind of avoiding him. Like you said, when you got someone, last year, what was he, 200 and something K, and it's like, it's a very easy, he was the easiest pick of all last year. I mean, there was doubts on Brodie's fitness and time on ground and stuff, but there wasn't any doubts about Cobb. You just pick him with confidence. But I'm feeling like, as though, I basically got the other three forwards ahead of him in Dunkley, not necessarily in scoring, but as a SuperCoach pick in Taranto, Rosie and Dunkley. Taranto and Rosie because they're cheaper, obviously, and they should have upside as well with their CBAs and stuff. But I think Cogs is definitely someone to look at. Like, he's pretty easy to put in your team again. He should be at least top 3 forward for the year. I can't see too many people knocking him off that mantle. So I'm paying $5.57. I'm not. Yeah, there's definitely upside, and he's pretty reliable. He's pretty durable. They've said he's playing midfield, so pretty easy one to pop into your forward line, I think.
Stills, why are you so keen on Cogs this year, mate?
Well, people always ramble on about his price. I think he's unders, honestly. He averaged 112 since Leon Cameron left the club, and he's priced at 101. So already you can see why it's so appealing. We discussed Tom Green, his easy run exactly with Cogs. Plays Hawthorn twice, easy teams early, got a cracking average on those. I think 25% ownership is extremely disrespectful to the bloke. It's bloody, that's bugger all. He's not really getting the recognition he deserves. I clearly think he's going to be, F2 behind Dunkley again consecutively. So I just really, really love this pick, honestly. And that 112 average is what's sort of getting me over the line here. It's sort of why I'm picking him just on that. And just provides heaps of stability. And as you said, it saves sort of 40, 50K in addition to picking a 600K defender. I think Cornelio is going to reach 600K at some point throughout the year with that role. His average is shambolic with Leon Cameron in the team, and it definitely shows. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So I think this pick is free, boys. I really like it.
Yeah.
And it's at the start as well, and it's his ceiling. We've seen what this man can do. I saw what he could do as soon as I bloody traded him out last year. He just went nuts for a 3-week period. So the great draw, the potentially higher CBA rate, the great ceiling, the added bonus of having DPP. He ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't he, Stephen Cornelio?
The only red flag that I can kind of raise is that if Kingsley's going to play that Richmond style of football, it's not as conducive to big scores in the midfield. They move the ball quite quickly. They don't overpossess it. It's kind of hack the ball forward and hope your forwards can go to work. They had a lot of small forwards at Richmond. I don't know if they've got that quality at GWS to sort of rely on that way of going about it, but just a small red flag. It's probably nothing, but there's not too many rich midfielders that sort of go 110 plus. So maybe just think about that when you're picking Cogs anyway.
Could be a tag target as well without Taranto and Hopper as well. Frees up a bit of a spot in the midfield. I think Cogs will get more CBAs this year, or way more, I think, than he did last year. But definitely more accountable. And if I'm an opposition coach, you'd definitely be trying to shut down Cogs or Jally. So, but I think he can definitely go 112 on what he finished with last year. That'd be elite. Even 108 would be sick. 105 would be good. I think he's unders.
I don't think you're going to tag these teams that are going to finish, that we think are going to finish in the bottom 6, though. I don't think often you'll have tags going to these lower teams. Unless it's another team in that range, if North are playing or, Saints are down there and they're playing them, then maybe you'll get a tag. But I don't see, the clubs that are finishing up the top of the ladder aren't going to be tagging anyone from GWS.
That game where Jolly got tagged by Turner, as I was talking about, still.
North might, like, if they're around the same range, maybe they'll tag each other. But a lot of won't even bother. Like as far. I don't think he's getting one every week. Let's put it that way.
But they seem to go to Jolly over Cogs, and Cogs went 174 in that game, and I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that Jolly did get tagged. So maybe it's a good thing that they're coming up against tagging teams, because if they go after Jolly, it definitely frees him up. So like, there's just so much upside with this selection. Like 567K, like what a steal. He's going to be 600. I can just see it happening. He's going to be a gun.
One of the few forwards that can get to 600K. Him,
Dunkley, easily.
And he should be up there too. There's people talking that he could even tip Dunkley for that F1 spot. I can't see it. I think that
you get close.
I can see Dunkley being in the top 3 scorers for the year, to tell you the truth.
I can too.
In that
better prediction.
Yeah.
Easy DR.
The only thing, we're getting off topic, but the only thing stopping Dunkley is maybe, Oscar isn't the best tack ruckman. Like, he doesn't have something like, say Clary with Gawn and Grundy tapping it down to him. They don't have as much of a strong ruck line. So that's probably, they still manage. I mean, Neil still manages to score really highly and everything. So it might not be anything, but it's just worth noting anyway.
Rupert, well, I've only got a few other names here. The next one is Aaron Cadman. So obviously number 1 draft pick. And thank you. Can I just say very quickly to the Giants, I should have mentioned this already. Thank you very, very much for not bidding on Will Ashcroft. That just made our night so much easier. So the Giants, that's a second favour they've done for us, because back in, I think it was 2016, they traded to get 1 pickup. They traded with us to get up to Tim Taranto. They left us with Huey McCluggage, and with the extra pick that they gave us, we selected his best mate in Jared Berry, my favourite player in the AFL. So GWS, you've really looked after the Lions twice. So thank you very, very much for that, ladies and gentlemen. But Aaron Cadman, 207,300, looking to play more of a forward role, one of those key posts up there this year. For me, because of his price, I just think that there are better options. I'd probably be more comfortable with even someone like an Oscar Allen, myself, who we know has had a bit of a scoring history, obviously some more years in the system. So, look, Dan, any thoughts on Cadman, or not really relevant at the price, mate?
I can't see it happening. I mean, he's more expensive than guys like Sheasel and Philippou and stuff that are, obviously a lot more mobile than him and probably playing for, well, if not better. So, I mean, maybe not Sheasel, but you'd think the Saints would probably do better than GWS this year. So, I can't go there. Don't pick tall forwards, especially in their first year. I don't even want to go anywhere near Oscar Allen, to tell you the truth. I just, or Ben King or any of those guys, anyone that's over 123K, if they're playing key forward, I'm not touching them.
Yeah, I agree. We talked the other night, Dan, when we were on the phone, potentially someone like a Green or a Comben may average close to what some of these other high-priced key forwards might average as well. So I think that's another reason why they're not really in the conversation for us.
Yeah, and if they get to the same price, you've made an extra 70 or 80K and you've saved it to begin with. So you can almost double that, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're looking at rookies, it's not just how much money they're making, but it's also what you're saving on them to begin with, because you can put that somewhere else in your team and get extra points on field, etc. So, I can't go.
No.
All right, only a couple more names to go here. The next bloke, I'm pretty sure, is injured at the moment, Brent Daniels. I think very similar to Cadman, 191,300, only available as a forward. I don't think he's going to be relevant with the other options that we've got this year. And last one is Connor Stone. So he comes at a much cheaper price, 123,900. Dan, do you know much about Connor Stone, potentially what role he's looking to play this year, and any chance that he might make his way into the starting 22 to 23?
I can't see him starting the year. Not that I know that much about him. He was a pick 15, 20 years old, 190 centimetres. He's 87 kilos, so he's got a bit of a build on him. He'll probably need a forward injury or something. I think they'll play Cadman before they play him because they want to get games into the young fella. He might be someone that comes in when Cadman has a rest or something. So keep an eye on him. It'd be lovely to get him, but I still think that he'd be in that group of like Fergus Green and stuff, of those guys that even if he does get a run, you wouldn't be wanting to put him on field. He'd be a bench option at best. So, and with sketchy job security, you'd rather pick a Comben or a Fergus Green that look like they're locked in best 22. So,
yeah,
agree. Yep, agree.
I wouldn't touch him.
Well, look, I think that is pretty much it for our GWS preview. Look, just to, I suppose, sum up, we're saying no to Himmelberg purely because of that forward role. If he was a defender, I think if we're all in agreement, it would absolutely jump on if that was guaranteed. That's where he was going to play for the whole year. We are absolutely all over Tom Green, massive Uber breakout contender.
Yeah.
So I think you can pretty safely lock him away unless there's some sort of major injury or disaster, which we hope not in the next month. And the other one is obviously Stephen Cornelio, close to a lock in my team at the moment. Great early draw. He's a captain of the club. Oh, is he the captain anymore? Is he still the captain, Cobb? Or is he giving it up? Who's the captain?
Toby Green.
Oh, of course. I said that. Of course. It's Toby Green.
And
so
he took it off Jelly as well. So
maybe that's some upside. Maybe that's some upside. So Cogs doesn't have that added pressure of having to be the leader anymore, to be the face of the club.
So many reasons to pick Cogs, honestly.
That could help him. There's another tick that I didn't even think of. So another tick for Cogs.
I think Boki had his best year as a 32-year-old when he gave the captaincy away from memory. But Cogs is a bit younger than that. But
he had a really good year.
Might just take a load off him, and he's still going to be a senior player there and everything. So, I'm warming to Cogs. I didn't have him at the very beginning when I was starting out, put my team together, but he's come in for sure, and I can't see him or Green leaving my side to tell you.
Yeah, they're not leaving my team either.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'll consider Callahan, but like you said, if Hopper goes down or something happens there, then he was definitely in consideration, but not one that's in my side until we get to see a bit more of him and what role he's playing. He'd probably need at least 30% CBAs to make it work at that sort of elevated 244K price tag. He's got the talent. It's just the role.
Bit of a mid-price backup option, as we said. If another popular mid-pricer goes down, he probably comes into play. But look, guys, that is it for now. Dan, thank you very, very much for joining us, legend. Cannot thank you enough. Obviously, you're not even a supporter of these sides, but you do live up in New South, so you have been nice enough to come on and give us some great information. Thanks very much for sharing all your thoughts and opinions, mate. It's been great to finally have you on the channel because we've been chatting for years and years, obviously, on SuperCoach Talk, Twitter, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So thank you very, very much for coming onto the channel, legend. We're going to see you very soon for our Freo Team Preview, but is there anything else that you want to sort of bring up or say before we leave you for this one, mate?
No, everything's good. Thanks, guys. I mean, you can give me a follow on Twitter if you like. You just search Freo Tragic.
Already following you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. You'll see my favourite Fremantle player ever there as my avatar on Twitter. Real Freo fans know about Clive. A lot of the AFL, especially the younger people, won't remember him, but he was the talisman of our club. He could have a day out, old Clive, and he was one of the best players to watch. He's kind of like an uncoordinated Heaney, if that makes any sense. he could take a mark, and he's a great forward, but someone that, so keep an eye out for him and give us a follow on Twitter, and I'll see you again soon for the Freo one. Yeah.
Mighty oath. Should be good.
Ripper. Well, thanks again, guys. All the best. Take care, and we'll see you soon for the Freo Team Preview. Cheers, bye.